Hey guys, what is up? Producer engineer Alex Scott here with Consordini.com. Thank you so much for tuning in to another one of our gear review videos. Today, super exciting. The wonderful folks at TONOR have sent me a microphone to check out. I'm really excited. We've been getting a few products lately from different companies that want us to review them on the channel. We're deeply thankful to the guys at TONOR for sending this over. Full disclaimer, they did send me this mic for free. I am allowed to keep this mic. However, that is not going to skew my opinion in any way. They wanted a true, honest, unbiased opinion of their mic, how it sounds, how it works. But we will be taking a look at what this kit comes with. We're going to pull the camera over, do a proper unboxing, and then take it into the control room, get the software installed on our studio PC, see how it works, how easy it is to install, all that good stuff, and then check out the sound quality and see if this is something worthwhile for you guys to invest in. So let's get the camera over and do ourselves a little unboxing. Okay guys, here we have our TONOR USB condenser microphone with full accessory complement. Let's go ahead and take a peek. Oh wow, look at all those goodies. So obviously opening it up, you can see we've got a shock mount, looks like a scissor arm, clamp, cable, that's got to be the mic itself, and then a secondary little kind of pop filter there. Very cool. That's awesome that they give you all of these accessories right alongside the mic. We also have this nice little kind of quick start guide, user manual thing here, folds out, pretty typical. So that'll have all of our instructions for getting it installed and all set up. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of this stuff here. Clamp for our scissor boom arm situation. I actually already have one of these and it's incredibly handy. You know, kind of a radio style deal. You know, this clamp will go in here and then this whole thing can mount on your desk. Very handy, especially for people working with smaller setups or working with smaller desks. Maybe you don't have room for a full mic boom stand. That's incredibly cool. Shock mount, it is metal. Seems like aluminum probably. Actually a decent quality little shock mount. I'm sure that will mount the mic nicely. And of course we have our USB cable, pretty standard fare. And finally, the actual mic itself. So very nice looking mic. Sort of an interesting metal grill. It almost has like some tackiness on it. I don't know if that's just from shipping or at the factory or something like that. Looking at it, it's super basic. I would assume this is a volume control, although we will find out shortly. I cannot see through to the actual diaphragm of the mic, so that tells me that there's a pretty substantial mesh grill in front. That can be a good thing because it can help reduce plosives. It also can cloud the tone a little bit, so we'll just have to see. I'm also seeing USB connection on the bottom, which this concerns me a little bit because normally, you know, since you're setting this up as the actual audio interface in your software, sometimes we can have problems where needing to set a separate output can get a little bit complicated. So I do like it when these types of devices have like a headphone jack of some kind or an output jack of some kind on them, so it can kind of be an all-in-one solution. This one is obviously just an input device over USB, so we'll have to see how that ends up setting up on the computer. But I do like that you can disconnect the cable from it directly, so if your cable goes bad, you can replace it really easily. It does look like there's threading on here for a hard mount, but I am not seeing a hard stand mount anywhere in this package, so that's also a little bit disappointing. But looks like, yep, that goes on there pretty straightforward and still leaves you access to the buttons. That's nice. And then this would go on the stand with the pop filter, and that will give you all of your needed accessories for the mic. So very cool package, very all-inclusive. It has pretty much everything that I would want to see in a package like this to get you up and running right off the bat. So let's go ahead and move into the control room and see about getting the software installed and see how this mic actually sounds. Okay guys, so here we have our TONOR mic. You can see I've got it all set up on its little scissor arm with the shock mount and everything. Very slick package, pretty easy to set up. First thing that I'm noticing now that I've got it here in the control room, the cable is a little bit short. I don't know, 6 feet-ish, which is fine for smaller setups, but I can't really run the cable back around the stand or anything because it would run out of length. So we've got the user's guide here. The exact model, by the way, is the Q9-1. This user's guide is incredibly basic. It has pretty much everything that you need to set it up. Similar to the Fi-Fine mic that we've also reviewed, it does just have you doing everything in the Windows, kind of built-in setup menus for audio and stuff, which I'm always wary of because you can't very easily control latency or anything like that. So hopefully I'll be able to get it to work with Studio One so I can actually use it as like a real proper mic. But I've got the screen cap here running so that you can see what happens when we plug it in. And we will just see if it recognizes it. Okay, yep, so see, we're setting up Q9-1, it says, which is very good. It does say it has an LED indicator, which I'm not seeing anything lighting up on the mic, but we will give it a few minutes. It looks like it's still setting up. Oh, it does also apparently have an option, those plus and minus buttons, if you push and hold. It is a volume control, but if you push and hold, it will mute the mic. That's kind of handy. Another thing that's really interesting as I'm looking through this little user guide here, it is telling us to record using QuickTime, which is kind of unusual. At least in the Mac OS installation section, it says that it's got this little picture on the back here of somebody using the QuickTime player to create an audio recording. Obviously, that is about the most stripped back, bare bones way you could possibly use a microphone like this. If we're needing to do any kind of music with this, like overdubbing or anything, that's not going to work. For basic note taking or like podcast dialogue or something, that could be a fine solution, but yeah, we will see. Okay, so this has disappeared. I'm going to assume that means it installed. I don't really know. It didn't tell me it installed successfully. But let's go ahead and run through some of our Windows sound options here and see if we can get some sound out of it. Okay, so it does support, oh, that's interesting, supports sample rates all the way down to 8,000. That's new. So 16-bit 44, that's good. Okay, so we've got our settings in Windows configured correctly and in the control panel for the Focusrite. So let's go ahead and pull up a Studio One session and see if we can get this working with Windows audio. Okay, so we've got this set up here. Make sure all our sample rate stuff is correct. Check. Check. Hey, 1, 2. Wow. That's interesting. Okay, so much like the Fi-Fine mic, we are having some issues getting it up and running in Studio One. Again, I'm not super familiar with USB mics like this. I don't really use them. So maybe I'm doing something wrong here, but I'm just setting it as a Windows audio device or interface in Studio One to Windows Audio. And I have everything, hooked up right as far as I know. And it's getting really garbled, distorted audio, as you guys could hear there for a second. So we had a good success in the Fi-Fine video with using Audacity for this, which I think is kind of more what these mics are designed for. So let's go ahead and try that. Make sure all of our stuff is set correctly. Check 1, 2. Hey, yeah, 1, 2. Okay, so we are getting signal into Audacity. That's good. So let's go ahead and check out the latency, which we can do by enabling software monitoring. Hey, yeah. Oh boy. We have massive latency problems again. Check, 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 check. Yep, yep, yep. We have, about half a second of latency again here. And as near as I can tell, there really isn't a way to correct that within Windows, since we're running everything through the Windows drivers. And then it's, the dedicated A to D conversion that's built into the mic is probably not a very high performance chip. It's just not going to get there in terms of latency. And there's really no options as near as I can find. I've never had to do anything quite like this in order to, let's see if this helps. Okay, so that's better. As you can hear, it's not quite as far behind. I am not sure why that latency is not at least, what we just heard there. That's me just enabling the kind of listen back feature within Windows. And the latency's better. Still totally unusable for recording, mind you, but it is a little bit better. So I'm not sure why that's not happening here in Audacity. Yeah, I'm just not seeing anything in the options here to really do much about that latency. So, again, as we saw with the Fi-Fine mic, and as I've seen in the past with other USB microphones. The latency is a big issue, which just basically means that you're going to have a really hard time overdubbing, listening to yourself while you record. If you are in some kind of a situation where you don't need to monitor yourself, maybe you're just, again, doing podcast dialogue, taking notes, recording little demo ideas or something, you don't need that monitoring, it's going to be fine. But because the latency is so bad, any kind of software monitoring is not going to work. Any kind of overdubbing is going to be really difficult because that latency is going to offset the audio even when it's recorded. It's going to be delayed, so you're going to have to start shifting your tracks around to try to get the timing to line up. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is at least, hook it up so that we can do some voiceover with it and play a little bit of acoustic guitar so you can hear how the mic sounds, just as a basic microphone. So let's move the camera over and at least check that out. Okay, so we've got a positioned, pretty typical miking situation on an acoustic, pointed right at the 12th fret, and we'll go ahead and roll a little bit into Audacity just so that you guys can hear what it sounds like on an actual instrument. We can't monitor because of the latency. I'm not going to be able to hear anything as I'm recording it for this or when I do voiceover, so we'll have to wait until the next section of the video so I can actually review the files, and we'll see how it sounds, I suppose. Okay, so now we've got it moved up so that we can hear it as a kind of a voiceover mic. I will say this radio arm, it's not working super well with my desk just because I have some trim on it that makes it a little bit hard to hook up. It's super handy though. It supports the mic no problem. It would actually support a mic that would be a lot heavier than this probably. It's decently well made. So that's a very, very cool feature. And the mic does look nice. It has, I don't think you guys can see right now, but it does have a little blue LED on the front, which is kind of cool. So it lets you know it's on and working and all that kind of stuff. But my main gripe is, again, just this latency issue and the fact that we can't monitor as we're recording. That's like a really, 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 really critical thing in a modern studio. And that is why I really like seeing these USB mics with a dedicated headphone output of some kind so you can have some kind of feedback while you're playing or talking or whatever it is. Again, if you're just doing basic voiceover stuff for, a podcast or something like that, it might be fine. But for me and for being in a studio or trying to do music really of any kind where you need to do overdubbing or good clean performances, that latency is it's a really, really big issue. Okay guys, so there you go, the TONOR Q9 USB condenser microphone. Listening back to the files, it sounds great. I'm actually really, really impressed with the sound quality. The Fi-Fine mic that we reviewed here on the channel, it's a very similar product, sounded good, perfectly usable, but this actually has a really nice detailed top end. It sounds like a pretty legitimate mic, which makes it all that much more frustrating for me that it's so limited in what it can do. I love that TONOR has included this whole package with all these accessories. It's a good quality shock mount. It's a good quality little, scissory boom stand situation. I do wish the USB cable was a little bit longer, but unlike the Fi-Fine, the USB cable is not hard mounted, which means that if the cable ever goes bad for some reason, we can just throw a new one in there. So that's great. But again, the issue here is just the fact that because the software is so limited, they've almost made it too simple in a weird way. Because they're just relying on the Windows drivers, the kind of basic plug and play drivers, you can get it plugged in, you can start recording immediately, yes, but that's kind of all you can do. When you try to monitor back, whether it's through Audacity or through Windows, there's always some amount of latency that makes it really, really, basically impossible to monitor anything while you're recording it. That's a big deal. If you're a singer, basically every singer I know, they want to have a little bit of themselves in their headphones so that they can hear what they're doing as they're singing it. Sometimes they'll take one ear out so they can hear their voice in the room as well, but you want to be able to hear yourself. If you're doing any kind of music, you want to be able to make sure that your performance is sounding good as you're doing it, that the mic's not overdriving or getting plosives or anything nasty like that. And that is just not doable with this mic, as far as I can tell. Now, I may be totally missing something, but I definitely know my way around Windows audio. I kind of do it for a living and have set up many, many recording studios and different interfaces and all kinds of different drivers and stuff. I think that all of these companies that are making these USB mics, if they just programmed a very simple little program interface type thing that you could install on your PC and use it to directly work with the buffer size and the latency settings and all this kind of stuff, that would make it infinitely better. I also am just always a proponent of put an output jack on it and for headphones And then also, you know, put a little jack on it that would allow you to connect it to a normal audio interface would be great, so that we can use it just as a standalone microphone. Because it does, again, it sounds really surprisingly good. I would absolutely use this mic to do demos and to record voiceover and all this kind of stuff. But because of that latency issue, because of the monitoring issue, I just can't. It's not going to work for me for really much of anything. If you're a podcaster, if you're like a Let's Player or a YouTuber, and you just need a quick and dirty, easy solution to just get your voice into a computer, and you don't need to monitor, you don't need to like sing along to anything or play along to anything like that, it'd work great and you would get great sound quality out of it. So if that's your situation, I recommend it 1,000%. I think it's a great sounding mic. But if you need to do anything beyond that, if you need to do overdubs, if you need to sing along with yourself or have somebody else sing or play along with something that you've created, even if you're not monitoring, and you're just listening to what's, you know, playing out of the computer speakers or whatever so that you can play along, it's going to be offset because of that latency. It's, you know, the recording itself is going to be delayed by like half a second. Then you're going to have to start dragging stuff around and trying to line up the timing and all that kind of stuff. It creates a lot of headaches that I could see really turning off budding, you know, somebody who's just beginning to be interested in recording. Dealing with issues like that might confuse them. It might turn them off from the whole process and make it more difficult for them to continue with recording. So kind of a mixed bag. You know, could be great for some things. If you just need to do that real simple, basic recording, it's fine for that. But the second you need to take it to a bit of a more intense level of overdubbing and this kind of stuff, it's really just not going to work, unfortunately. So I will say thank you again so much to the folks at TONOR for sending this mic over. I always deeply appreciate it when people send me stuff to check out. It's a big honor. I love being able to do these videos for you guys. I really hope that they're helpful and, you know, yeah, just give my kind of unbiased opinions on these things. So thank you again very much, TONOR. Great sounding mic, just a few of those features around the edges and more advanced use cases. Yeah, not gonna work. But in any case, what do you guys think? Have you used this TONOR USB mic or any other USB mics like this? I would love to hear your experiences in the comments down below. Please feel free to share. I would also love to know if I'm being a total idiot here. You know, maybe there's some setting that I'm not finding back in Windows that I've somehow always missed before, where we can mess with the latency a little bit or something like that. I don't know. So if that is the case, please let me know, because I would love to, you know, be able to use something like this. It seems really handy. So, but in any case, my name is Alex Scott with Consordini.com. Thank you guys again so very much for watching. Huge shout out to the guys at TONOR for sending me the mic. Really appreciate it. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so that you are kept up to date with our content. And yeah, thanks as always, guys. We will see you in the next video.